In the heart of the Galactic Council chamber, Kieran Rail stood beneath a dome of shimmering starlight, his voice echoing with conviction as he pleaded for peace. As an intergalactic diplomat, he carried the weight of humanity's hopes, navigating the tumultuous currents of alien politics. The air crackled with tension, a palpable energy that hinted at the fragile alliances he had painstakingly forged. War is a contagion, Kieran asserted, his gaze sweeping across the diverse assembly of alien delegates. To indulge in aggression is to invite chaos into our homes. We must choose diplomacy over destruction. Yet, as his words hung in the air, a sinister shadow loomed. The chamber's flickering lights cast wavering silhouettes. And before Kieran could sense the threat, it descended upon him. A horde of armored figures burst through the grand entrance, their leader, a towering figure with glistening crimson skin and glowing yellow eyes, was none other than Grathok, the feared warlord of the Sithir Empire. Kieran's heart raced as the warlord's bellowing laughter echoed through the chamber. How quaint, Grathok sneered, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through the hall. A human, lecturing us on peace. You speak as if your kind can resist the pull of war. How charmingly naive. Panic rippled through the delegates as Grathok's men brandished weapons, their intentions clear. Kieran felt the cold grip of fear. But he forced it down, refusing to allow it to show. He was trained for this, trained to remain calm amidst chaos. Yet, even as he prepared to negotiate, his mind whirled with the implications of being taken by this merciless creature. Before he could act, rough hands seized him, dragging him from the council chamber, his protests lost in the tumult. Kieran struggled, but the grip of Grathok's enforcers was unyielding. They marched him down dimly lit corridors, past flickering screens displaying images of war and conquest. Each step echoed the dread that gnawed at him. Grathok had no intentions of negotiating. He wanted to use Kieran as a pawn. When they finally halted, Kieran was thrown into a cold, metallic cell. The door clanged shut, sealing him in a cocoon of despair. Alone, he took a moment to gather his thoughts. Grathok's intentions became crystal clear. The warlord sought to marry him off to his sisters, powerful figures in their society, as a means to solidify his dominance over human territories. Welcome to your new home, diplomat, Grathok's voice taunted through the door. You will serve as a bridge between our worlds, whether you like it or not. In the silence that followed, Kieran's mind raced. He could not allow himself to become a pawn in Grathok's game. There had to be a way out, a way to thwart the warlord's ambitions and save himself, and perhaps even the sisters he had yet to meet. Kieran vowed silently to remain resolute. The galaxy was vast, and within its shadows lay the promise of hope. With determination igniting within him, Kieran began to devise a plan, knowing that his survival, and that of others, depended on his next moves. Time was of the essence, and the stakes had never been higher. Days blurred into an indistinct haze as Kieran remained imprisoned within the cold confines of the cell, the rhythmic hum of the ship echoing the relentless passage of time. The isolation was suffocating, but it was during these long hours that he began to focus on the flickering glimmers of hope that danced at the edges of despair. Then, the unexpected happened. The heavy door creaked open, flooding the cell with light, and two figures stepped inside. Ilara and Thysia, the sisters of Grathok, stood before him. Their presence was striking. Ilara, tall and formidable, bore the weight of authority in her stance, while Thysia, softer yet equally determined, exuded a quiet grace. Are you the human they spoke of? Ilara inquired, her voice a blend of skepticism and curiosity. Yes, Kieran replied, studying them closely. And you must be the sisters Grathok intends to use as pawns in his game of power. Ilara's expression hardened, her brow furrowing. We are not pawns, diplomat. We are trapped within a web spun by our brother's ambition. He believes that marrying you will secure his grip on humanity. Kieran felt the weight of their predicament pressing down on him. But you have a choice, he urged, his voice steady. You can refuse to be used as tools for his tyranny. We can work together. Thysia stepped forward, her eyes wide with intrigue. What do you propose? Our brother will never let us leave his side willingly. Then we must make a plan, Kieran asserted, a flicker of determination igniting within him. We need to show Grathok that you are not his possessions but independent beings with your own desires. If we can escape this ship, we can leverage your freedom against his cruel ambitions. As the trio huddled together, whispers of strategy filled the air. Kieran shared tales of his world, of resilience and revolution, and the sisters opened up about their lives under Grathok's oppressive rule. Through their exchanges, Kieran realized the depth of their entrapment, bound not just by blood but by a fear instilled through years of manipulation. Ilara spoke passionately of the galaxy's need for unity, her words weaving a tapestry of hope. We can be more than just a means to an end. Together, we can reshape our destinies. We can forge alliances between our worlds. But just as the spark of rebellion began to ignite, the heavy footfalls of Grathok echoed through the corridor, signaling his imminent return. Kieran's heart raced. The sisters exchanged worried glances, and Kieran quickly formulated a plan. We must hide. If he discovers our alliance, we may lose everything, Kieran urged, urgency threading his voice. The sisters moved with practiced grace, slipping into the shadows of the cell. As Grathok entered, his presence loomed like a thundercloud, his eyes scanning the room with predatory intent. Have you grown fond of your new life, human? He taunted, leaning closer. You'll soon find that my sisters will learn their place. Kieran stood his ground, a mix of fear and defiance coursing through him. They will never belong to you, Grathok. They are more than just your property. Grathok's face twisted with rage, and Kieran felt the walls of the cell close in on him. But behind the warlord's fury, Kieran sensed a flicker of uncertainty. As Grathok stormed out, the sisters emerged from their hiding place, determination etched on their faces. We will not let him win, Ilara vowed, her voice steady and fierce. Together, we'll reclaim our freedom. In that moment, Kieran knew the path ahead would be fraught with danger, but for the first time, the threads of fate began to weave a tapestry of resistance. Their journey had begun, and the stakes had never been higher. The ship trembled as Kieran, Ilara, and Thysia stood in the dimly lit corridor, the weight of their decision pressing down on them. Grathok's looming presence haunted their every step, and the stakes escalated with every passing moment. Kieran glanced at the sisters, determination reflected in their eyes, and he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Follow me, he whispered, leading them through the twisting hallways of the vessel. Each corner they turned brought them closer to freedom, but danger lurked in every shadow. As they navigated the labyrinthine structure, Kieran recalled the schematics of the ship he had memorized during his briefings. They had to reach the control room, the heart of the ship where they could seize control and send a distress signal to the Galactic Council. They moved cautiously, hearts pounding like drums. Thysia clutched Ilara's arm, her fear palpable. What if we get caught? She breathed. Glancing back toward the darkness from which they had come, then we'll fight, Ilara replied, her voice steady. We're not leaving this ship without our freedom. As they approached the control room, Kieran noticed two guards stationed outside, their armored figures casting ominous shadows. He signaled the sisters to stay back, formulating a plan. We'll need to create a distraction, he whispered, scanning the surroundings for anything useful. The faint hum of machinery provided the perfect cover. Kieran spotted a nearby maintenance hatch. I'll create a diversion. When I give the signal, you rush in and take control. Ilara nodded, her resolve unwavering. Be careful, Kieran. With a final glance back, Kieran darted down the corridor, reaching for a nearby panel. He pried it open, exposing a tangle of wires. With deft hands, he began to pull levers and yank wires, sending sparks flying. An alarm blared, piercing the air with a shrill cry, "Attention! Intruder alert!" Echoed through the ship, reverberating in Kieran's ears. He sprinted back toward the sisters, adrenaline coursing through him. As he reached them, he yelled, "Now! The sisters surged forward, rushing past Kieran and into the control room, their determination like a fire igniting in the darkness. Kieran followed closely, his heart racing as he locked eyes with the guards. The guards, momentarily stunned by the alarm, were slow to react. Ilara and Thysia sprang into action, using the element of surprise to disarm the nearest guard with a swift strike. Kieran joined the fray, grappling with the second guard, adrenaline heightening his senses. In a fierce clash, he felt the weight of his own survival, the fates of the sisters hanging in the balance. With a final push, Kieran overcame the guard, sending him crashing to the floor. "Let's go," Thysia urged, her voice fierce as she hurried to the control panel. Ilara stood guard, ready to fight off any incoming threats, as Thysia worked furiously at the controls, her fingers flying over the panel. The ship's systems flickered. "I can send a distress signal, but we need to set the course for the nearest galactic outpost first." Kieran nodded, keeping watch for Grathawk's inevitable return. "Hurry." With a determined gleam in her eye, Thysia focused on the screen, inputting coordinates. The tension in the air was palpable as footsteps echoed outside the control room. Grathawk's voice boomed, filled with fury and vengeance. "You will pay for this betrayal." "Almost there," Thysia shouted, her heart racing as she hit the final key. A piercing alarm echoed through the room, signaling the distress signal had been sent. "We did it!" Thysia exclaimed, a mix of relief and exhilaration washing over her, but their victory was short-lived. The door burst open, and Grathawk stormed in, fury radiating from him like a storm. Kieran, Ilara, and Thysia braced themselves, ready to defend their newfound freedom. "This ends now," Grathawk growled, his eyes blazing. In that moment, as they prepared to face the warlord together, Kieran felt a surge of hope. They were no longer pawns in a game, they were players, united against tyranny. And together, they would fight for their freedom and the future of their worlds.